They thought they could break you and keep walking as if the universe had no memory. They thought your silence was surrender, that your calm was weakness. But life carries a sacred justice, and the mirror never forgets. Every betrayal, every scar carved into your heart, it is all recorded, waiting. And the first sign that karma awakens is not thunder, not fire. It is the quiet collapse of their own mind, sleepless nights, heavy thoughts, that whisper at 2 in the morning they cannot silence. But here's the deeper truth. The mirror does not only watch them, it reflects you. This isn't just about their fall, it's about your rise. Because if all you do is wait for their punishment, you remain chained to their story. So what now? You turn the mirror toward yourself. You ask, what is this pain teaching me? Where must I draw my boundaries? Where must I practice forgiveness? You take back your energy, no longer feeding it into fantasies of revenge. You reinvest it into yourself, into your health, into those who value you, into the goals that call you forward. And let me ask you directly, which part of you still longs to see them fall? What lesson hides inside your pain, waiting to be understood? What seeds have you planted, in anger or in love, that are now returning to you? Because the sweetest justice is not their collapse. It is your evolution. The mirror always finds them, and the mirror always finds you. And what it reflects, that part is no longer in their hands. It's in yours. Sign 1. When conscience becomes a prison. I was 40 years old when my mother, Anya, finally broke the silence of decades. For most of my life, I believed my father had simply abandoned us, walking away without reason, leaving behind birthdays with an empty chair, and years of me wondering what flaw in me made him stay away. But one evening, she sat across from me, eyes shadowed by secrets too heavy to keep. Her hands trembled as she confessed the truth that rewrote my past in a single breath. My father hadn't left because of cruelty. He had left because of her betrayal. One moment of weakness, a choice she thought she could bury forever. The shock hit me like a storm. Rage rose in me, not only at what she had done, but at the long silence that had shaped my entire childhood. For 40 years I carried wounds without answers, and suddenly the answer itself cut deeper than the wound. But when my anger softened, another truth struck me, and it was one I rarely admit. I remembered my own failure, years earlier, back when I was still married, back when I was with Mara, the woman I once thought I'd build forever with. On a business trip, one blurred night turned into betrayal. It wasn't love, never intentional, but it was still a weakness I excused as part of the job. I buried it the way my mother buried hers. And in that moment, I realized something painful but human. She and I were not so different. We both carried shadows. We both were far from perfect. For decades, she had lived under a private sentence. Every time she saw me grow without a father, she was forced to face the shadow her choice had cast. No neighbors condemned her. No court judged her. She judged herself every single day. Her guilt was the cell. Her silence was the lock. And I understood. Her punishment had begun long before her confession. This is the first sign of karma. It doesn't roar with thunder. It seeps quietly, eating away at peace. It shows up as sleepless nights, as laughter that dies the moment you're alone. The world may still applaud you, but your heart knows the truth. And when your conscience turns against you, no external enemy is needed. It's like trying to sleep with a dripping faucet. Everyone else hears silence, but you can't escape the sound. Guilt works the same way, following you everywhere, echoing in the quiet. And here's where the mirror bends back toward us. Let's be honest, we've all done something we'd rather erase. A word spoken too sharply. A choice we excused in the moment. And later, in the silence, it stings. Karma isn't always an external hammer waiting to strike. Sometimes, it is the whisper in your own chest, reminding you that unhealed choices always return. So I ask you directly, what truth are you still running from? What secret have you locked away, hoping time would erase it, while it only grows heavier? If you don't face it, it will face you, in the most vulnerable hours when no distraction remains. But you are not powerless. Tonight, take a simple step. Write down one mistake that still echoes in your memory. Next to it, write one small action you can take tomorrow to balance it. Reach out to someone you've ignored. Apologize for words spoken in anger. Choose one act of kindness to begin tilting the scale. Because the prison of conscience is not built by the judgment of others, it is built by silence. And freedom does not come by waiting for punishment to pass. Freedom comes the moment you turn guilt into growth. Never forget this: you may outrun people, you may silence conversations, but you cannot escape yourself. The mirror always finds them, and the mirror always finds you. Sign 2. When doors quietly close. I once worked with a man who was brilliant at taking credit for things he didn't do. In one project, a colleague poured his heart into the details. Late nights, endless revisions, the kind of quiet effort that keeps a team alive. But when the spotlight came, this man stepped forward with polished words, smiling as if the work had been his all along. And yes, for a while, it seemed to work. He received the praise, he shook the right hands, he tasted the power of recognition, but life has a way of withdrawing quietly. At first, nothing looked wrong, yet, in the months that followed, something shifted. Invitations to new projects stopped coming. Opportunities that once landed easily in his lap suddenly slipped away. The phone that used to buzz with connections went silent. It's like staring at your inbox, refreshing every hour and finding nothing but spam. People didn't accuse him. They simply stopped trusting him. He thought he had won, but the doors were already closing. I've also seen it happen to a woman in another company. She whispered in the right ears, feeding her boss half-truths about her colleagues. She exaggerated their flaws, positioned herself as the loyal right hand, and for a season, it seemed to pay off. But over time, her team distanced themselves. The trust of her peers dissolved, and eventually, even the boss she clung to no longer relied on her. She thought she had secured her place, but one by one, the doors quietly shut. Because no matter how high you climb, life itself refuses to hold open doors built on betrayal. That is the second sign of karma, when doors that were once wide open begin to shut, silently, without warning, without explanation. This is not chance. It is the sacred recalibration of the universe, a justice that may be silent, but never sleeps. Not because of bad luck, but because the universe recalibrates itself. It's not always punishment. Sometimes it's alignment. Life refuses to keep opening doors for someone who betrays its design. And here's the truth. We've all felt the sting of closed doors, the job interview that never called back, the friend group that stopped inviting you, The promotion that was promised but never arrived. Sometimes those doors closed because of others' betrayal. But sometimes, if we are honest, they closed because of seeds we planted. Through neglect, arrogance, or dishonesty we thought was too small to matter. Let me ask you, which doors in your life have stopped opening? Are you knocking on a path that no longer responds? And deeper, are you sure that door was meant for you? Sometimes karma removes opportunities not to harm us, but to save us from climbing ladders that would collapse under our own weight. This is where perspective matters. When one door closes, bitterness keeps us staring at the wood, replaying the rejection. But wisdom asks, what new door is waiting that I haven't even noticed yet? The longer you stare at the locked one, the longer you miss the ones already ajar. So here is your practice. Instead of forcing a door open, pause. Take 10 minutes today to reflect. Which parts of your life feel like constant resistance and which parts feel like flow? Write them down. The resistance often reveals where life is withdrawing. The flow often reveals where life is guiding you. Trust the rhythm. Don't fight to stay in a room where the lights have already gone out. Because karma doesn't always strike with thunder. Sometimes it simply stops opening the doors you were never meant to walk through. Every closed door is not rejection, but protection. A shield keeping you from hallways that would have collapsed beneath your feet. And when those doors close, don't panic. Don't chase. Look around, because another path is quietly waiting. One aligned with who you are becoming. Remember this. No matter how much someone manipulates, steals, or schemes, life itself does not support what is false. Sooner or later, the doors stop opening, and the silence speaks louder than any verdict. The mirror waits, the mirror watches, and in the end, it finds both them and you. If this truth hit home, drop a comment with one door you're now grateful never opened, because that awareness might free someone else too. Sign 3. When you meet your own reflection. There was a man, an old classmate of mine whose name I will keep hidden. For years, he was in love with a woman who had walked with him through hardship, believed in his dreams, and stood by his side when he had almost nothing. She worked long hours so he could study. She skipped her own desires so he could chase his. Her loyalty was quiet, but unwavering. But when ambition whispered louder than love, he made a choice that would haunt him. He left her, coldly, suddenly, to pursue the daughter of his boss. He thought this was his shortcut to power, his golden ladder to climb faster than anyone else. And, for a while, it seemed to work. Marriage gave him status. His career advanced. His name echoed in meetings that once ignored him. But inside, something was wrong. He never truly forgot the woman who had loved him without condition. That quiet ghost followed him into every celebration, every hollow smile. He treated his new wife with distance, unable to give her the warmth she deserved. Soon, she began to sense it. She looked at him and felt the absence he thought he had hidden. Suspicion grew until she uncovered his past, the truth that he had abandoned someone loyal, just to climb higher. To her, their marriage was not built on love, but on calculation. She chose to leave, and in the silence after divorce, his career faltered, his allies disappeared, and he found himself alone. The ladder he climbed so quickly had collapsed beneath him. Because no ladder built on betrayal ever reaches the sky. It always snaps under its own weight. That is the third sign of karma. Life does not invent new punishments. It simply hands you back the shape of your own choices. He betrayed a loyal love, and later his own marriage collapsed under the weight of his dishonesty. He once chose ambition over loyalty, and in the end, that ambition cost him both his career and his relationships. This is the reflection. What we send out eventually comes back, not always from the same person, but always in the same pattern. Have you ever felt that eerie moment, as if life is replaying your own actions, only this time you are on the receiving end? Life has a cruel symmetry. The pain we give often returns to us, not from the same person, but in the same pattern. And when it does, it hurts more, because we recognize ourselves in the wound. Think about it. Have you ever felt that sting? Someone dismissing you, someone undervaluing you, and deep down realized you had once done the same to another? That is the mirror. That is karma's precision. So let me ask you, what kind of reflection are you shaping right now? If the way you treat people came back to you, doubled, could you stand it? Would you be proud to face yourself, or would it break you? Here is your practice. In your next interaction, at work, in love, with family, pause before speaking or acting. Ask yourself this simple question. If this comes back to me in the same form, will I be grateful or regretful? Live as if every action is already echoing back. Because in truth, it is. The man in this story lost everything, not by chance, but by mirror. His downfall was a reflection of his own choices. The universe may be silent, but it never forgets. What you send out always circles back, carrying your own face. That is karma's way, not random, not cruel, but exact. And so I remind you, you can outrun many things, but you cannot outrun yourself. The mirror doesn't lie. It always finds them, and it always finds you. Sign 4. When the seeds you plant return. In my own family, there was an uncle who prided himself on being self-sufficient. He wore his independence like armor and mocked others who needed help. Whenever relatives came to him in times of trouble, asking for a small loan, a favor, even just a word of encouragement, he would scoff and turn them away. He thought generosity was weakness, that those who gave too much would be used and drained. For a while, it seemed like he was right. He kept his money, kept his distance, and lived untouched. But time has a way of revealing what pride tries to hide. Years later, illness came for him. It wasn't sudden, but a slow erosion. Hospital visits, medication, days when he could no longer walk the stairs. And when he reached out for help, hoping someone would stand by him, he was met with silence. No one mocked him. No one cursed him. They simply didn't show up. The same walls he had built to keep others out now kept him in. What he had planted in his youth, selfishness, neglect, returned to him as loneliness and isolation. That is the 4th sign of karma. The soil of life never lies. It always returns exactly what you plant: love or neglect, patience or pride. Every word, every gesture is a seed. The soil keeps the record even when you forget. And one day, when the season changes, the harvest appears, whether you're ready for it or not. Life itself is a field. It remembers what you plant long after you've forgotten. You may not see the harvest today or tomorrow, but the soil never forgets what you've sown. Words spoken in anger come back as fractured relationships. Acts of kindness come back as unexpected support. And selfishness always returns as emptiness, like coming home to a big house with no one waiting at the table. And here's the comfort. You don't need to chase fairness. The field itself is fair. Justice is already built into the soil. Your only task is to keep planting what you want to see again. Think about your own life. How many times have you dismissed someone who needed you, telling yourself it was their problem? How many times have you taken without returning, assuming the debt would vanish? It always seems small in the moment. But the soil never forgets. Every choice is a seed, and even the smallest seed grows when planted in the soil of time. So let me ask you plainly, when the harvest comes, will you be grateful, or will you be haunted? Because every season always comes due, and when it does, the field doesn't lie. It hands back exactly what you gave it. What seeds are you planting right now? Are you sowing resentment, bitterness, pride? Or are you planting patience, kindness, generosity, even in small amounts? Because the harvest always comes. It's like watering a small plant on your windowsill. You don't see change every day, but one morning, a new leaf is there. Life works the same way. Here is your practice. Do one unasked act of giving this week. It doesn't have to be money. It can be your time, your attention, your words. Send a message of encouragement, offer help without being asked, or listen without interrupting. These are seeds, and one day when you need it most, they will return as a harvest you didn't even know you were planting. My uncle learned too late. His fields had been sown with pride, and in his final years he reaped only silence. But you and I, we still have time to plant differently. Remember this, karma doesn't forget. The soil keeps every seed. The mirror always finds them. And the mirror always finds you. If this resonates, hit like as a reminder of the seeds you're planting right now, because someone else might need that light too. Sign 5. When forgiveness frees you. There was a woman I once knew who carried a wound that seemed impossible to heal. Her closest friend, the one she trusted with every secret, betrayed her in the cruelest way by stealing her husband. For weeks, she could hardly breathe. Her chest burned with rage. She told herself she would wait as long as it took just to watch them fall apart. She dreamed of their ruin as if it were medicine for her pain. But revenge is a fire that consumes the one who feeds it. Months passed, and though the couple she hated looked strong on the outside, it was her spirit that was wasting away. Sleepless nights, silent tears, the poison of bitterness dripping into every part of her life. Hatred always promises fire for your enemies, but in truth, it burns your own house first. One night, unable to sleep, she picked up a book about relationships. At first, she rolled her eyes, thinking it had nothing to do with her pain. But then, a line caught her. Men withdraw when they feel constantly criticized. Women push harder when they feel unheard. The words stung. Against her will, she remembered the countless arguments, the dismissive tones, the pride that had chipped away at her marriage long before the betrayal. She slammed the book shut in anger, whispering, "No, it's their fault, not mine." Yet the thought stayed. Days later, she picked up the book again. This time, she admitted what she had denied. She too had planted seeds of distance. The realization stung like salt on an open wound. For days, she fought against it, torn between anger at them and regret for what she had neglected. One day, exhaustion overtook her, and she collapsed into sleep, nearly a full day lost before she woke again. In that moment, something inside whispered, "I cannot live like this. I must release this pain. I must let go." From that decision forward, a weight began to lift. After weeks of forgetting what it felt like to smile, she found herself laughing again at the smallest things: the sunlight through the window, a child's voice outside, the taste of morning coffee. Slowly, letting go transformed into forgiveness, not only for them, but for herself. Because forgiveness is not about rewriting the past, it is about reclaiming the future. It was liberation. She put down the weight of revenge and picked up the discipline of healing. She began to build a new life, one not defined by what was stolen, but by what she chose to grow. Eventually, she welcomed another man into her life, a man of genuine character. And this time, she was not the same woman. She had learned how to treat a man with such respect and warmth that he could never imagine looking elsewhere. She listened, she valued, she cared. The girl who once sulked and demanded became a woman of grace, intelligence, and irresistible presence. That was the true victory. Not just surviving betrayal, but becoming the kind of woman whose love can never be taken for granted again. Her radiance became the verdict. Her growth was the justice no betrayal could erase. And here's the paradox you've been waiting for. Forgiveness doesn't set them free. It sets you free. This is the fifth sign of karma. Forgiveness is not a gift for the guilty. It is freedom for the wounded. By letting go, you stop carrying their punishment inside your own chest. And the paradox is this. The moment she forgave, the cracks in their stolen relationship began to show. She didn't need to watch it crumble. Life took care of that. Think about your own pain. Who are you at or still holding prisoner in your heart? The truth is, the longer you hold them, the longer you remain chained to the story they wrote. So here is your practice. Write a letter, not to them, but to yourself. Pour out every hurt, every memory, every injustice. Then end with this line: I free myself from carrying your weight. You don't even need to send it, burn it, keep it, hide it. It doesn't matter. The act itself is the key. Forgiveness does not mean they win. It means you no longer bleed for their choices. It means your future belongs to you, not to the wound they left. And this is where karma works most beautifully. When you stop obsessing over their downfall, when you release the hunger for revenge, you suddenly find yourself rising. Their storm is no longer yours to weather. Remember this: forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength in its purest form. The mirror of karma may one day find them, but more importantly, it already finds you, lighter, freer, untouchable. Sign 6. When enemies turn on each other. There was a man I once worked with who was gentle, quiet, and always focused on his tasks. He wasn't the kind of person who fought back when mocked. Maybe that's why a group of colleagues decided to target him. They laughed at his mistakes, twisted his words, and spread rumors just to see him squirm. I remember watching him walk down the hallway, carrying his files, pretending not to hear the whispers that followed. He didn't argue. He didn't fight. He simply finished his work and, one day, without warning, resigned. At first, the bullies celebrated. They thought they had won, that they had driven him out. The office felt like their territory now. But life doesn't let cruelty thrive forever. In the months after he left, something unexpected happened. The same people who had united against him began to turn on each other. One betrayed the trust of another. Secrets were leaked. Promotions that once seemed guaranteed disappeared. The laughter that once filled the break room turned into suspicion and silence. One by one, their alliance cracked until the group collapsed from within. And here's where it gets shocking. Enemies don't need you to destroy them. They do it themselves. It's like watching a fire they lit for you only to see it spread back into their own house. Every drop of poison they poured into others circles back until they are forced to drink it themselves. Cruelty never exports. Sooner or later, it comes home to roost. That is the sixth sign of karma, when those who conspire against you eventually collapse under their own weight. The energy they use to harm you becomes the fire that burns their own house down. Life doesn't misplace receipts. It keeps every record, and it always returns them, often with interest. And here's the lesson. Cruelty never binds people together for long. Fear, gossip, and manipulation may create the illusion of strength, but beneath it, there is no loyalty, no honor. Think about those office cliques you've seen, loud at lunch, whispering in corners, but gone the moment pressure rises. A group united by malice is like glass glued together with cracks. It always shatters when pressure comes. So let me ask you directly, how much of your life have you already wasted waiting for revenge? Or will you trust life to handle what you cannot? Because when you step aside, the fight turns inward. They no longer need you as a target. Their own choices will devour them. So stop staring at their circle, waiting for cracks. The cracks are already forming. You just don't need to hold the hammer. Here is your practice. When someone mistreats you this week, resist the urge to retaliate. Instead, write down one sentence. Their storm is not mine. Keep it where you can see it. Every time anger rises, remind yourself, their downfall does not need your hands. The man who left that job never came back to witness what happened. He didn't need to. And maybe that's the secret. You don't rise by proving them wrong. You rise by moving so far ahead that their collapse becomes irrelevant. His silence was his shield, and life itself became his defender. Remember this, enemies built on cruelty always collapse from within. You don't have to push, you just have to step aside. Because when you protect your peace, life itself becomes your defender. And in that peace, you rise untouchable, while their storm consumes only them. That is the true victory, not their collapse, but your untouchable calm. They can hide from the world, but not from the mirror. The mirror always finds them, and it always finds you. Sign 7. When justice arrives in silence. One of the hardest questions I hear is this. Do they ever pay for what they did? Or do people just walk away untouched? I understand that ache. Betrayal leaves you broken, while the one who hurt you sometimes looks like they're flourishing, posting smiling photos, stacking achievements, acting as if your pain never even existed. But here's the truth. Justice doesn't always arrive in the form of public collapse. Some people do unravel. Their careers crumble, their relationships rot, their masks slip away. Others keep the appearance of success. They laugh, they pose, they look untouchable. Yet inside, there are fractures no camera can capture. Trust they'll never regain, sleepless nights that claw at them, a loneliness that grows even in the loudest celebrations. Life keeps receipts, even if they're hidden. I once knew a woman left by her husband for someone else, abandoned with a child, and barely enough money to survive. At first, she lived on the edge. Rent overdue, meals skipped so her child could eat. But she made a vow. I will not let this break me. She took small freelance jobs, studied late at night, built skills brick by brick. What began as scraps of work grew into a thriving business. Within years, she moved into a better home, gave her child stability, and surrounded herself with loyal friends who admired her resilience. In time, she realized the blessing. Justice was never about watching his downfall. Justice was her rebirth. That is the seventh sign of karma. Justice may not show up the way you want, but it always arrives. Sometimes it's visible, other times invisible, but unescapable. And here's the paradox. The more you stop craving their collapse, the faster life delivers your rise. Because the longer you stare at their story, the longer you stay trapped inside it. The delay of justice is not denial. It is preparation. If it came too soon, they would never learn. If it came too soon, you would never grow. And often, the moment you stop checking is the exact moment life proves it was working all along. So let me ask you, are you still waiting for their storm? Or are you ready to build your sunlight? Are you still checking for their fall? Or will you invest in a future so radiant their shadow cannot touch it? Because by the time the mirror finds them, you will be too far ahead to care. Here is your practice. The next time you feel the urge to see if they're suffering, redirect that energy. Call a friend. Write one page of your vision. Take one step, any step, toward your healing. Each action reclaims your timeline. Remember this, justice does not need your eyes to prove itself. It needs your trust. Sometimes it shows itself in ruins. Sometimes it shows itself in your rebirth. But always, the mirror finds them. And the mirror finds you, stronger, freer, untouchable. Now, you have walked through 7 signs of karma. 7 mirrors life holds up, not only to those who wound, but also to those who heal. Maybe you recognized someone in these stories. Maybe you recognized yourself. That is the power of truth. It doesn't just describe the world, it unmasks the soul. And here is the deeper lesson. Karma is not a spectacle for our curiosity. It is a teacher for our becoming. It was never designed to entertain you with someone else's downfall. It was designed to awaken you to your own rebirth. If you keep staring at their storm, you remain chained to the ruins. But the moment you turn inward, the chains begin to break. Ask yourself, what have I been feeding? Resentment or renewal? Which part of me has been waiting for someone else's collapse, while my own dreams have been waiting for me? Because every ounce of energy spent longing for their destruction is energy stolen from your creation. Justice is not only when they lose. Justice is when you rise, quietly, steadily, into a life their shadow cannot reach. Justice is the morning you wake up and realize you no longer need their apology to feel free. Justice is when your peace becomes louder than their betrayal, and your future becomes wider than their name. Do you see it now? You were never meant to be the audience of their punishment. You were meant to be the author of your healing. That is the hidden justice of silence. It does not only condemn them, it recreates you. So I ask you, not as a voice on a screen, but as someone who has walked through collapse and chosen rebirth, will you keep waiting for the mirror to catch them, or will you finally allow the mirror to shape you? Will you circle the ruins another year, or will you step forward and build the house only your spirit was meant to inhabit? The mirror always finds them, but more importantly, the mirror always finds you. And what it reflects, brokenness or beauty, despair or strength, that choice has already passed from their hands into yours. If this message gave you clarity, subscribe so we can keep walking this path together, because healing multiplies when it is shared.